Kalimera, good morning. Dear friends, excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me begin by extending my heartfelt appreciation to the organizers, the Economist Impact Events Management team, for convening this distinguished forum and for granting me the honor of addressing you today. Addressing this prestigious audience in Thessaloniki carries a special meaning. This historic city, crossroads of civilizations, has for centuries been a meeting point of cultures, faiths, and ideas. It is also the birthplace of a great statesman, the founder of Republic of Turkey, Mustafa Kemal Atatürk. A visionary leader, Atatürk anchored our nation upon the principles of modernization and aspired to bind it more closely with the West. In that spirit, the subject of my remarks today, Turkey's engagement with European institutions, is not merely a matter of current policy, but the continuation of a vision woven into the very foundation of our republic. I'm equally pleased to express my profound gratitude to my esteemed friend and statesman, His Excellency Dimitri Avramopoulos, whose kind support has made my presence here possible. Our friendship spans across 3 decades, and it was enriched by a unique chapter in history when he served as mayor of Athens and President Erdogan as mayor of Istanbul. Their relationship, built on mutual respect, stood as a safeguard of peace between our nations, even in difficult times. Evcharistopoli, Dimitri. I must also take a moment to honor the memory of my friend Yanis Boutaris, former mayor of this great city of Thessaloniki. He was a visionary and a good friend. At a dinner in Istanbul hosted by His Holiness Patriarch Bartolomeo at his home, Yanis once told me, Egemen, Greece is in the EU. We're partners with many nations. However, with you Turks, we're like cousins. Except for language and religion, our cultures are so similar. We have far more in common with you than with many others in the European Union. That's why we want Turkey to join. May he rest in peace. Ladies and gentlemen, today Europe stands at a crossroad. The economic and political certainties of the past are fading. 3 seismic events have reshaped our world: the war in Ukraine, the tragic and inhumane atrocities which can be defined as a genocide attempt in Gaza led by Prime Minister Netanyahu, the continuing consequences of regime change in Syria. Each has tested EU's capacity not only to project influence externally, but also to maintain internal unity and cohesion. The war in Ukraine exposed Europe's dependence on Russian energy and revealed weaknesses in its defense industry. The COVID-19 pandemic had already exposed vulnerabilities in supply chains and coordination. The genocide in Gaza has revealed deep moral weaknesses of foreign policy divisions, while the situation in Syria continues to generate refugee flows and security challenges. Together, these traumatic events highlight the urgent need for a renewed vision of European security, one that bridges the gap between EU and non-EU allies and redefines Europe's place in transatlantic alliance. Europe cannot afford to be divided abroad while it's uncertain at home. To its credit, the EU has begun adopting. The strategic compass of 2022 charts a defense roadmap to 2030. The competitiveness compass of 2025 strengthens Europe's economy and resilience. Repower EU seeks to end reliance on Russian fossil fuels by 2030. The European Chips Act boosts semiconductor independence. The Global Gateway Strategy mobilizes 300 billion euros for infrastructure worldwide. Most recently, the Rearm Europe Plan and the White Paper for Defense Readiness 2030 seek to transform Europe's defense industry. The direction is clear. Defense, resilience, and competitiveness lie at the heart of Europe's future. Strategic autonomy is not a slogan. It is a survival strategy. But this raises a fundamental question, which you asked me. Can the EU truly achieve strategic autonomy without Turkey? Turkey welcomes the EU's ambition to become a robust actor in the security domain. We are ready to contribute, not only as a neighbor, but as a NATO ally, a strategic partner, and a candidate for membership. Our defense industry is strong and innovative. Turkey has NATO's second largest army, ranked 9th worldwide. Our defense export exceeded $7 billion last year. We are among the only 5 nations that is capable of producing the next generation fighter jets. Platforms from the Altay tank to Milgem frigates, from Anka and TB2 drones to Kaan fighter jet. These are not only Turkish national assets. They are potential European assets. This is why Turkey's participation in the SAFE, Security Action for Europe initiative, is not optional, but necessary. We have already expressed readiness to join joint procurement projects under SAFE. With a defense industry as capable and as robust as ours, Europe would be losing a valuable ally by neglecting Turkey. Unfortunately, some member states continue to block such cooperation. This is not only short-sighted, but damaging to European security interests. Defense collaboration must be guided by merit and shared interests, not by narrow politics. Excluding Turkey weakens Europe's defense ecosystem and undermines its own autonomy. History has shown that Turkey has been Europe's first line of defense. You never know. We might have to come to Europe's rescue again suddenly one day, as we did throughout the Cold War. A Europe that sidelines Turkey is a Europe that sidelines its own security and future. Turkey is the EU's 5th largest trading partner, and the EU remains Turkey's largest. That's why our partnership is not limited to security. We secure supply chains, strengthen critical industries, and serve as a vital energy corridor linking Europe with external resources. Turkey holds a pivotal role in Europe's connectivity, in trade, transportation, energy, and digitalization. Europe's supply chain, as well as its food and energy security, have become more resilient thanks to Turkey's strategic assets, from Istanbul Airport, which is one of the largest in the world, to pipeline projects such as the BTC. Without Turkey, Europe's map of energy is incomplete. Yes, in past, we had our differences, but disengagement is not the solution, because disagreement should never mean disengagement. Enlargement today is no longer a technical process. It's a geopolitical necessity. The war in Ukraine has accelerated the EU's enlargement agenda and its need for partners. Turkey must not be left out of this momentum. Furthermore, it would be unrealistic to expect Turkey to contribute strategically to Europe's security while being excluded from its decision-making structures. You cannot ask Turkey to carry Europe's burdens while denying her a seat at the table. A fair and credible enlargement process is Europe's best investment in peace, stability, and long-term security. Ladies and gentlemen, let me close with this. Turkey's alignment with EU security and defense initiatives can only be sustainable if it is matched by renewed momentum in our accession process. Turkey does not seek to remain in the sidelines. We seek to stand shoulder to shoulder as a full member of the European family. Turkey is not Europe's neighbor. Turkey is Europe and her future. The challenges of our time demand not just cooperation, but unity. And unity demands courage. Thank you for listening to my remarks.